welcome back to Coaches at Crown Brew Getting Coffee. I want to thank, as usual, we'll start off by thanking Abby and Ross for being here and taking care of us today, and for Bill Swinford and Swinford Media. I want to thank Crown Brew for letting us be here today. Ross and Abby have the Swinford videography. They do weddings. They do all those kind of things for you. If you have a wedding coming up or know someone that does, please contact them. They're putting information there on the screen for you. I want to thank my buddies at Adrenaline Fundraising for their sponsorship. Jeff and Matt in town today. I just saw them, and they are the best. They're finishing a fundraiser here at Marion High School, and they are A+. I want to thank Marion Plumbing, residential and commercial plumbing. My buddy Tony Gooch, part of our chain crew, part of the community, great guy, and he'll take care of all your plumbing needs. And my guest today is Coach Rodney Watson. Coach, welcome.
Great to be here. Gosh,
yeah.
Thanks for asking.
We've had great conversations before we went on air today. I want to run through some quick highlights, and then we're going to jump right into your career. Known for his years at SIU as an assistant coach for Rich Herron, Bruce Weber, Matt Painter, and Chris Lowry, where the Salukis won 11 Missouri Valley Conference titles, 9 NCAA tournament bids, 6 NIT trips. The Salukis were 430 and 237 during that period. They had 30 players get all MVC honors, 5 Freshman of the Year awards, and 9 Defensive Players of the Year. And most recently, he was the head basketball coach at the University of Southern Indiana, where he amassed a 251 and 82 overall record and a 141 and 59 conference record. He is the winningest and longest tenured coach at the University of Southern Indiana. And I love this stat. In his tenure, he had 9 20-win seasons out of 11, and the other 2 seasons, he had 19 wins. So you're so close, and it's awesome.
Those are terribly disappointing years in our standards.
But that is such a cool bio, and I think it says a lot about you. You did it well as an assistant coach for so long, then you got your chance, and you just knocked it out of the park. So I'm glad you're here. I know you had to come a ways to get here to do this, and man, I appreciate it so much.
Easy trip from Evansville to Marion.
That's awesome. Let's start. I know you grew up in Paris, Illinois. Tell me about growing up in Paris.
Grew up on a farm, town of 10,000 people, and at the time our school had 1,200 kids in it. And today,
wow.
Yeah, today you
know
that school
yeah.
coming from Salem. You know it's much smaller, and it's just, you know, there was a little bit of industry in Paris. It's kind of a farming community. We were country kids. I grew up 10 miles from town, and truly in the middle of nowhere. Our nearest neighbor was a quarter mile one way, and my grandmother lived a half mile the other way, and didn't know any different. But I grew up on a farm, and I knew I didn't want to do that, and the farm didn't want me either. I mean,
really?
I was a cheap farmhand, but not a very good one. But Paris was a good place to grow up. My dad played high school basketball in the 40s. I said, Dad, why didn't you go on to college? He goes, son, going to college in those days was like going to the moon. But they had a lot of talent. He graduated in 46 and 47. They won a state championship with guys I know their names today. One was Bob Owens, who ended up playing for the Globetrotters, and his son Steve and I played on the same high school team.
That
so
is very
some of those
cool.
stories, really neat town. And
did your dad not go to college, and was he on a farm his whole life too, and then he just stayed in the farming business?
He turned pro right out of high school. He became a professional farmer right out of high school. That's why I tell people, they're like, oh, what about not going to college? It worked out pretty well for my dad.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he actually didn't. I mean, there was no silver spoon. Now his grandmother and his grandfather, they had some land and so forth, but I remember asking him, how'd you get into farming? And he goes, well, I was about 21 years old. I'd worked for the State Department, did different things. I helped on our farm and so forth, but he said, I wanted to buy a little bit of land and some farm equipment back in whatever that was, probably 1949. And he goes, I just kept following my grandmother around the house until she said she'd co-sign for me. And that's just the way it was.
Yeah.
Interesting part, Carrie, and I bet you can relate to this as well. I think about my dad and my mother. They leveraged everything they owned. They leveraged it twice, everything, to buy some farmland. So the first time they bought a house, an old house that was built before the turn of the 1900s, somewhere built like 18-something. True 2x4s, spiked nails, okay?
Yeah.
They bought that by leveraging, my dad raised hogs for cash flow. And as a kid, you don't know this stuff. My mom and dad were Sunday school teachers, great people, okay? They leveraged everything. And Then he went and bought 70 more acres when I was 12 years old. And I noticed that summer, man, he was grouchy. Golly, he was a great guy, but gosh, he was grouchy. And, didn't really think much of it, just like, whatever. Well, I found out again, he leveraged every 500 head of hogs, every piece of equipment, all of his previous farmland, the house, everything. So I said to him one day, why isn't our, because where I grew up, and probably same with you, but certainly in the country, when you are on a gravel road, you speak to everybody every time. So when
everybody
you
waves,
stick your hand up, right?
Even if you don't know them.
I still do it to this day. Matter of fact, I'll tell you a quick story after I get done with this one about living in Carterville. I made people speak to me on Greenbrier. They were trying to big time me. And it's like, I told Carol one day I was mowing, like, look, I'm going to stand on that blacktop road and stop the car till the guy raises his hand. We're speaking in Carterville. But anyway, I said, why isn't Rich speaking to us? He goes, he's mad at me. I go, why? He goes, I bought that farmland. I go, why would he be mad? Did he want it? He goes, no. He thought I was going to go broke. And I look back and it's like, man, as coaches, you and I, we had pressure to win. Yeah, because in order to do what we like to do about coaching, to coach kids, you got to win games to stay there. Yeah. But man, when you leverage everything twice, that's real pressure. And that's what I respect about my mom and dad more than anything else.
So they were leveraging to keep growing and add to the family and build the family farm. But it was a risk.
No, they're leveraging from the standpoint that if he doesn't make it, that farm and everything he put up goes back to the bank. Like they lose everything. Yeah. We lived in the country, and there were times where we had ball practice or whatever it be. And before we had our license, we would drive our truck, or they would drop the truck off. And when we got back from a trip, we would take the country roads home without license. And every time, my dad would say, if something happens with you in this truck, somebody else is going to own our farm. So everything had risk in that day, and we were well aware.
And they don't talk about it. They don't tell you all that back then, so you don't know why they're grouchy. You don't know what they're going through. My dad didn't ever talk about what was going good or bad about the insurance business. It just was what it was. He kept it to himself, and but I could tell there were times he felt it. Sure. As he built a business from scratch, and so I get it. Did you play sports?
Did played. Had a rule in my house when Carol and I had kids that we have two sons, Blake and Zach, and the rule was you got to play freshman football. Now at Carterville, and you were there, did a great job, and Dennis Struss was there when my kids were there. They played freshman. Blake went on and played sophomore. He had an injury, he had to drop out, but I played freshman year, and it was the best thing for me because I wasn't good enough, I wasn't big enough, wasn't nearly tough enough, but it made you realize there's somebody tougher than you, so just be careful how you conduct your business. And it was a really good lesson. Yeah. Played basketball, loved that. Played all 4 years. Played 3 years of baseball. Ran cross country a couple of years. Yeah. And just wanted to be a part, have something to do. But that helped me with raising our kids, knowing that you can't come home after school. You got to have something to do. And sports is probably the best activity. Yeah. Getting a job wasn't a big deal. Now, we worked on the farm, but my parents instilled in us, don't fall in love with buying a car. Fall in love with, where you're going to go later in life. And that was the same lesson Carol and I kind of provided for our kids.
Did you go on to college and play sports?
Not good enough, not even close. Yeah. So another cool lesson about getting into coaching. So I did a lot of dumb things between ages 0 and 21. I did 2 smart things. The first smart one was I went to Western Illinois for 1 year. I wanted to get away from Paris. Well, that was a dumb reason to go someplace. Good school, it's fine, but it didn't work, and I came back to Eastern Illinois. That first fall semester, I took a basketball theory class because I knew I wanted to coach. In 8th grade,
I'm going to ask you, when did the coaching bug hit?
8th grade.
Okay.
8th grade,
okay.
And I don't know why, but in 8th grade, I came to the realization my dad was 6'2", not with us anymore. My mother's 95, still with us. She's still 5'2", and I was going to be somewhere in the middle, and that's not going to be big enough. Yeah. To go on and play college, and plus I wasn't good enough, okay? So what am I going to do? I didn't want to work on the farm. My mother worked, she was a bookkeeper at a factory. I did that in college. I know I didn't want to work in a factory. Didn't want that. I want to coach. I want to stay involved in basketball, okay? So in 8th grade, I come to the realization, you're not going to be big enough, so be a coach. Think about, and I kind of went through that. I kind of went through high school wanting to coach and knowing that, my time was finite. You know, after high school, I was crying for a different reason because I was done playing organized. Went to Eastern my second year, sophomore year. Freshman year, I really kind of wasted it. I mean, I did fine with school, but just like I didn't do anything with coaching. And whatever. So I'm taking a basketball theory with Rick Samuels. He was the new coach at Eastern Illinois. And I loved it. It was a great class. He's a great teacher, and he was a terrific coach. 26 one-year contracts at Eastern. Now that's for a different podcast for you to take over, but that's amazing. Really great teacher, really great fundamental person, and he taught his class that way, and he knew I was really into it. I was always, at Eastern, we didn't have a rec center, so they would have practice until 6 o'clock, and then, I mean, the Lance Gym, now arena, it was full of kids. I saw Maurice Cheeks' brother break a water thing off the wall one time when it was basically our rec center.
Yeah.
And I mean, football players were great. They were terrific basketball players.
So they waited until the practice was over, and
it was the rec center, and and you played half court because there were just too many people there, and so I'd be in there playing, trying to get in any game I could. But I'm telling you, there were some pro football players at Eastern Illinois at that time, with Coach Mudrup being the coach.
Of course.
And those dudes could hoop too, man. Yeah. They were good. So anyway, Coach Samuels asked me to stick around after a class. I'm thinking, man, this is my shot. Maybe he's going to ask me to be a walk-on. That would be my dream. I could put that on my resume. I was on the team just as a walk-on. Yeah. He says to me, when everybody leaves, he goes, hey, I know you're really into this. What do you want to do? I go, I want to coach. That's all I've ever wanted to do. He goes, I want you to think about being a manager for me. My heart just sunk because the ego was in the game.
Sure.
Kerry, I literally went outside the classroom that day. I go, can I tell you next class period? He goes, sure. Just think about it. He goes, look, I get the ego thing. We'll call you a student assistant. I think it'll be really good for you to be around the game. I need the help.
Yeah.
I think you'd be good at it. I go out. I literally sat down on the steps on a beautiful day like we're experiencing today and thought to myself, you better check your ego at the door, man. It's time for you to become a coach if you really want to be one. Yeah. Went back on Wednesday, told him I wanted to do it. The number one smartest thing I ever did. And I'll go right to the second smartest thing I did at age 21. Along with that, we student taught, right? Our last semester, senior year, had to find a place to go. There were two coaches that impressed me more than anybody in high school basketball in Central Illinois. One was Ron Felling, just a legend, a genius, a basketball genius. And got to know Ron later on, and I mean, he's amazing, just amazing. The other was Ron Herron. And Ron Herron, I just loved the way he coached. He was tough on his kids. His teams we'd always come into Paris and always beat us, it seemed like. And I thought, you know, I think I'm going to call Ron Herron and see if he would let me do it. So I called him on break, the winter break, 411, got Ron Herron's number. Olney, Illinois, called him up.
Information, 411.
411, of course, Gary. Isn't that how we still do it? And so
I still do.
I call him. He answers the phone. I go, tell him who I am, what I want to do. Would it be possible for me to student teach for you? Well, absolutely. The greatest thing for what we're going to talk about next, and that's how it all happened. Yeah. That's how I got connected with Rich Herron and Ron Smith, but it was all because of all the dumb things I had done leading up to that for 21 years. And it's a long list of dumb things. That was the smartest thing I ever did. In addition to telling Rick Samuels I'd be around every day in practice, learn the game, get to travel, learn about things that the way you run a college program is exactly the way you'd run, you know, a little dribblers program at Marion or Carterville or Madison or Coulterville.
Were you thinking, you didn't care? Were you thinking high school coach? Were you thinking college coach?
No, high school, man. I wanted to, my dream was to be a high school coach, go to a place, build a program, win state championships. You know what I mean? Because that's what you do, right? You win state championships, of course. And I knew it'd be hard. And so it's like college that's my dad. That's like going to the moon. I'm never going to do that. Yeah. And got a job at Coulterville in 1982.
It's so funny. I taught at Sparta, which is, you know, right next to Coulterville, and drove through it many times, taking the back way from Salem to Sparta, going back home. And I meet Mark North, who was an assistant of yours and has always spoke so highly of you. And you guys did some good things at Coulterville.
It was amazing. So I go, Kerry, in 1982, the economy wasn't very good. And there was this song, it was called Get a Job. and it was on the radio, and you only had the radio in 1982, and it was playing 3 times an hour. And I'm telling you, I'm thinking, I'm going to get a job, right? I'm going to get a job. I got a degree. I'm going to get a job. And I'm sending out resumes. I get nothing. I mean, man, I'm getting nothing. So I'm doing a camp at Eastern Illinois, and I get a call from Coulterville saying, hey, we want you to, I sent something in there saying, we'd like to interview you. And so I'd ask Rich here, and I got to know Rich through Ron that year. I student taught in Olney. I got to know Ron Smith, and Ron Smith was going to take sabbatical and go to Benton with Rich and work on a master's in counseling that year, and that job was going to come open. Well, Smitty knew he was going to stay on, and that job would become permanent.
Yeah.
And Rich is telling me, hey, big guy, you better. You got to start somewhere. You can't start at UCLA. And that's that. I remember him saying that to me, and I knew he was right. And Terry, I did not have an interview. So I'm working camp at Eastern, and I'm so country that I have some clothes with me. I'm gonna go for an interview. Steve Yant is the assistant coach I became very good friends with, who was with Rick Samuels, and he goes, "What are you gonna wear?" And I show him what I'm gonna wear, and he goes, "Your pants are wrinkled. They're a mess." He goes, "You're not gonna get this job." So his wife irons my pants, and I go up during camp and I interview. And Ron Mazander was the superintendent, and Charlie O'Rear was the president of the school board. And I swear to this day, and North won't ever come clean, Mark North won't ever come clean, but I know the other guy didn't take it, and that's the only reason I got it. And
whatever it takes, though, right? Whatever it takes.
I go to check it out before I interview. I go to Coulterville, never heard of this place, little coal mining town. I walk up, the only building standing was the gymnasium. So I peek in, nobody, no one's there. It's the summertime. I peek in the window. I go scope this town out. It's like, I'll be back cutting corn out of beans on our farm in 1 year. There's no way this is going to work, even if I get the job. There was one basket hanging and one dangling. And there were about 200 desks over the gym floor. There was that much dust. Oh. This is my only interview. Well, I get offered the job, a whopping $1,000 a month, $12,000. I would have paid him $12,000 to be the coach.
Yeah.
We didn't have, so they were building a brand new school, and we had the gymnasium and a K-4 building that was still standing, unattached, and they were building the school around it. We had school that first year from 7:45 until 11:45. We only went to school for 4 hours. It was like the greatest thing ever. To this, like 42 years later, when whatever it was later when I retired, it's like, that was a good gig.
Yeah.
But thinking, school of 100 kids, we're going to get buried. Well, come to find out, because Mark North was the coach, Ron Smith had really built the program. Mark had built such a great junior high program, we had talent coming. The year before I got the job, they were 1-26. That was the year in between Smitty and when he took the Benton job. And they had another guy for 1 year, and it just didn't work out for him or the school. So the job opened that way, and I thought, oh my gosh. So we're doing fall conditioning, and I'm running these kids, and like I'm coaching for my life, and I hadn't even started a career yet. And they thought I was nuts, and heck, I was nuts. But out of the blue, about a month into school, we have a 6'9" kid move back to town. His dad had lived there, and you talk about God working in mysterious ways. And we go on to be 14-11. And then next year, we had an incredible magic year, won the regional, and to this day, and I'm not kidding, I've been part of some really cool things. Had a chance to coach in the Final Four at Southern Indiana, part of some really cool things at SIU. But we had a chance. We won a regional at Pinckneyville. And I remember Dick Korn. I just admire him so much to this day. Just the way he coached, the way he carries himself. As we went, and that was a hard loss for them. He'd get beat by Coulterville at Pinckneyville, and he walked up, shook my hand, said to me, "That's a big win for you." And at first I thought, man, what do you mean by that? Well, he had it all in place, man. He knew good things are going to happen.
This is going to
lead.
You
beat Pinckneyville at Pinckneyville.
Yeah.
And I'm just a young 24-year-old kid, and he said that to me, and I just said thanks. And then later I thought, man, that was pretty gracious.
Yeah.
You lose a heartbreaker like that. Yeah. And then from there we went on to Madison and other things.
You were at Madison for how long?
2 years.
2 years.
Didn't do a good job there. Too young. I was too young for the job. We had actually, so that second year at Coulterville, we had a good team. And I'd worked camp with Larry Graham, who's a longtime great coach, 2-time state champion winner, great basketball coach. First scholarship player at Vincennes. That's his claim to fame, along with being a great coach. We lost Larry a couple of years ago, but became a really great friend. So I called Larry. Somebody had backed out. We were really good. St. Henry's was a school in the Belleville area, and they were underpersoned, right? They were undermanned, and we beat them really bad in a game. And you know, I'm 24. I'm trying to win games. You know, I'm not thinking about what you ought to be thinking about. I'm trying to win games because I'm trying to get a new job, make more money, better status, get to that state championship, right? Climb. I just had all my perspective, everything in proper perspective, not. And so I called Larry Graham in about January, because St. Henry's called and said, hey, we're going to cancel. We don't have enough kids. So we're trying to get another game. I called Larry. I go, hey, you know anybody looking for a game in your area? He goes, yeah, we are. Well, they're ranked like first or second Class A in the state. I go, I think that's a little bit more than we can handle. He goes, no, that'll be good for you. We'll come to your place. You just come back the next year. And so I kind of stammered and said, yeah, let's do it. So they come over and we play Madison. They came to Coulterville. Madison did. And they were like ranked like 1, 2, or 3 in the state. They were that good. And we play them tough. I mean, they beat us by, I think, 8 or whatever. And heck, if I look at the scorebook, it's probably 28. But in my mind, it was a pretty close game. And Larry takes the Edwardsville job. They picked him to take the SIU Edwardsville job over that spring and start the program over again. They had some things go on in their program where they just shut sports down. Remember, there was the tennis crisis where some academic stuff happened and so forth. But Larry took that job, and I called him. I was just kind of curious. I go, who's going to get the Madison job? And he goes, you want it? I go, no, it's too much for me. He goes, well, you're probably who they're looking for. They're going to look for somebody young and somebody they can have impression on. He goes, I'm old, and I've kind of set in my ways. They probably want somebody young, and you know your team was really good. You ought to at least put your name in. Man, one thing led to the next, and I'm the coach at Madison High School. Now, back to the too young. I was too young. I didn't know the game. I didn't know kids. It turned out to be, to this day, Kerry, I've said this before, as you know, in education, the teacher's lounge can be not a great place sometimes. Yeah. And I really loved it there. I'm not kidding you. I told Carol, had I probably done something different for lunch, I'd probably still be at Madison. Probably wouldn't have been coaching, but I loved it there. We were well paid.
That's interesting.
Just really enjoyed it. Kids were great. Got to know a lot about, African American community. It was great, wonderful. And I did a lot of dumb things. I did a lot of things wrong, but I learned from it too. But then got a chance to go to Nebraska, Omaha. I had a guy recruiting our area and came in and said, hey, we're going to have an opening. And back in those days, and I'll just tell you, I was going to make $25,000 in 86, 87. That was a lot of money for a single guy living in St. Louis. And this guy said, hey, we're going to have an opening. I'm going to move up a spot. I'm going to get this higher paid spot. We're going to have this opening. And would you be interested? It was going to pay $4,800, and you can work on a master's. Now, who would do that? Who would take a 500% pay cut?
I think you did.
I did. I was single, and I'll tell you why. Because Ron Herron had told me all along. He said, I had a chance. Gene Bartow asked me to come with him to Valpo, but I had a family, and I love my family, and I loved Olney, and I just couldn't make the move. And he goes, I think from time to time, what if? Because he goes from
that old what if question.
Valpo to Memphis to Illinois to UCLA, and you never know. Yeah. And he said it in a way, he goes, look, I did the right thing for me, but man, when you're single, take advantage of it, because once you're not, things change, right? Yeah. And you've probably seen that. Oh, for sure, yeah. So anyway, when that situation presented itself, I thought, you know what? Go get your master's, move up on the pay scale, but never wanted to be a college coach. I wanted to try it, just say I did it. I went to Nebraska, Omaha, made $4,800, got a master's degree in counseling, met the love of my life, and then something that I never expected. Scott Howard was on coach's staff with Bobby McCollum and Ron Smith. And so Ron Smith was what was known as the part-time assistant. So he was full-time in the incubator or the Small Business Development Center, and he was to be full-time, get benefits, then he coached basketball. you really had to do that other job. And I didn't realize you really had to do that other job.
Yeah.
So anyway, that opening presented itself. Smitty moved up when Scott Howard went to Drake. And because I knew Ron Herron and Ron Smith, they were really co-signing. And Rich, and it was between, interestingly enough, myself and Steve Hawkins, who's now on the staff with Coach Nagy at SIU. Yeah. And there were times, and if you knew Rich Herron, all of us do. If you're in Southern Illinois, you know, because he knows everyone.
Everyone.
And that's one of his greatest gifts he passed to us. But there would be times where I'd do something dumb, and he'd say, Watson, I could have hired a guy that drove John Wooden to camp every day, and I hired you. Now, why would I have done that? And that was his way of checking me. But that turned out to be an incredible situation. And from there, 21 years later, I said to my wife when we moved there, I go, Carol, the only thing that I ask is that we stay here for 3 years. I've been at Coulterville for 2.
Right.
I was at Madison for 2, Nebraska Omaha for 2. I'm a jumper.
You're really starting to get that resume that coaches sometimes get.
But just think about it. It's exactly what I deserve, because what did I say to you about Coulterville? Well, let's win and get out.
Yeah.
Let's win and get out. And oh boy, was I doing that. And I went up a pay scale in one jump and I dropped, but then no, I got what I deserved.
Yeah.
And we'll come to that a little bit later about how that comes full circle. But man, getting on with Rich Herron and Ron Smith, I mean, I owe as much to Ron Herron and Ron Smith as I do to anybody in what we're going to talk about going forward.
Those rebuilding years, I mean, you're there with Rich. I mean, as we go through this, what's your big takeaway from the guys? And I know on time, but I know because this could be a separate podcast. But what did Rich bring the rebuild process? Because it was down. What was the key, in your opinion, to turning that around?
Well, the simple answer is to everything. You've got to have good players. Okay, we can talk about all the philosophies and all the great qualities that those guys have and the school has, but to coach, you have to win. Like had you not won, had I not won, you don't get the opportunity to be the head coach. It's just the way it is. That's the part that has to happen, right? Well, I got there in the summer of '88, so I'm 28 years old. And I'm just thinking, hey, I'm going to Southern Illinois University, okay? All right. And I didn't realize enough to know that he's building it, but those first 3 years are tough, and you only get about 3 years in college anything.
That's right.
And you don't even get that in these days because it's become such high stakes poker.
But maybe he would get a little more because he was Rich Herron.
And the program was in bad standing.
Right.
Okay. So I get there, and I'm enthusiastic, and I'm the young dumb kid on the staff, and our first games were going to be in Puerto Rico, and we were going to play Toledo first. And Dwayne Kelly was on that staff. Dwayne Kelly, who was from Murfreesboro, played for Coach Ashman there, went on to coach later. After the college, he went to Northern Illinois, I think, to play, and I think he got on there, and he ended up at Toledo, and he goes to Carbondale. We lost Dwayne way too early in life. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just it's amazing how, as you know, in coaching, we talk about people we know and how things come full circle. Well, anyway, if you beat Toledo, you get to play Villanova. And Villanova, 3 seasons before that, had won a national championship in Rupp Arena. I was there. Raleigh Massimino and that whole story. They beat Georgetown. Well, we're going to get a chance to play Villanova. So all summer I'm saying to Coach, we're beating Villanova. I go, Coach, we're going there. We're beating Toledo. Yeah. And we're going to beat Villanova. And he's like, Watson, you're crazy. And I just kept saying, Coach, we're beating those guys. We get there. We beat Toledo, and we beat Villanova, okay? Yeah. And they have a guy that's actually, Doug West, I think, was on the team, and man, Raleigh was a madman during this game, and there's so many great, so that's another podcast, but you got to have players. So think about these players, Kerry, who we had. And now, this is year 4, and I didn't realize in year 4, we better get it done, or I'll be there 1 year, right? Well, I don't ever even think like that, because I'm 28. I'm like, we're gonna win. We got Kai Nurnberger, who's got to become a Hall of Famer at SIU. He was on the '92 Olympic team, one of the a great player in Germany. I mean, his accolades are incredible. We have Jerry Jones, who transferred from UTEP, who is from the Chicagoland area. We've got Rick Shipley from Centralia. He's a Hall of Famer at SIU. We got Freddie McSwain from Birmingham. Randy House is a 6'5" left-handed shooting guard. I mean, but at that time, you think, wow, do we have enough? And you look back and go, what would their NIL be today?
Yeah.
Those 5 guys.
Think about that.
And that's not even, I mean, I can keep going on Sterling Mahan and the guys I've left out that played and really big for us. Man, we were stacked. We beat Villanova, okay? I thought, man, we'll never see Villanova the rest of this trip. We hear Raleigh just screaming at his guys in the locker room. We're ecstatic. We just beat Villanova. By the time we got from where we played at Bayamon to the hotel, those dudes from Villanova were shooting craps at the table. It's like, I don't think that message resonated so much with those guys. Yeah. Well, the next night, we get beat by South Carolina State. It kind of put us on a little bit of a killer. But all said, we go on to have a great year and great players. But here's the thing that really amazed me about Rich. In my 10 years I worked for him, Kerry, he never used a swear word. So Rich coached hard. If you watch him at Benton High School stomping his foot, you would think, that guy's used every word in the book. He never used a foul word. And for that doesn't get you in heaven by itself. But what that does is he can get on you as hard as you want. He never puts it on a personal level.
I was going to say it never was personal, was it?
The other thing, and I keep telling coaches, and I think it's falling on deaf ears, I worked for him for 10 years, and when we were on the court and practice or a game, never did 3 minutes go by they didn't say the word rebound. So I knew that was a big deal in coaching and his success. But what really made it work for Coach Herron in Southern Illinois, his thing was, you've got to have time for people. You better have time for people in Southern Illinois. So the first day, on Sunday, before my first day on the job on Monday, he calls me, says, hey, Watson, I'm going to pick you up the arena at 7 o'clock. We're going to go down to Vienna. We're going to take guys some season tickets. I go, we're doing that tomorrow? He goes, yep, see you at 7. I get in the car at 7. We drive down to Vienna. We got season tickets. I go, that wasn't what I pictured big-time college basketball to be. We're going to drive a couple season tickets down to a guy in Vienna. Yeah. I go, you do this a lot? He goes, anytime somebody wants tickets, I'll take them to them. He goes,
relationships.
You better have time for people in Southern Illinois, because as long as you're winning, you'll be all right. When things aren't going so well, you better have built some relationships. First day on the job, I learned that, Kerry, and I'm telling you, that was the most important lesson that I had learned at that time. The guy we went to see, his name's Chester Lawrence, who, when he finished playing as point guard at Kansas, JoJo White took his place. He is now a very successful businessman, a great friend. Went on to, he did insurance. He owns a Dairy Queen, which is tremendous, but he coached junior high basketball. He got on me a few times at camp now. I mean, he didn't like the way I reffed a lot. Yeah. And he was right every time. Chester and I are great friends, but that was the story. My first day on the job, we went and took Chester Lawrence, starting point guard at Kansas, a couple season tickets. He was a great friend, a great booster, and a great person to have part of our program.
That story kind of sums up, I think, really well what Rich was about, getting good players and building relationships. And then I need to get to a couple more coaches before we get to your time at USI, but quickly, what about Bruce? What was the thing that he brought to Saluki basketball?
We were learning on the job. Coach Herron will admit, because I got here, it's like, man, there's a lot of, the learning curve in college athletics has always been great. It's really great now. I mean, it's incredible now with the different things going on. But Bruce Weber had been with Gene Cady, who was very much like Rich Herron, very much like him. Purdue, as I found out, was very much like Southern Illinois. Okay. A lot of have-nots. Now, they had a lot of stuff. But compared to the Big Ten, they had a lot of things. They were doing some things with some awfully good coaching and different things. Bruce Weber brought things like just incredible knowledge, like never schedule a road game before Christmas break, because kids have already gone home for Christmas break. So our first year, we're playing at Western Kentucky, and they're always good. And it was December the 22nd, and we're going on break the 23rd. We had to be back the 25th because we had some whatever. And he was mad because we got beaten. He turned around, and he goes, "Don't ever schedule a game ever again on the road before Christmas break, because the kids have already left." Yeah. things like that. Just knowing how to schedule, knowing how to recruit. But the best thing that Bruce brought, he said this to us, and we were just talking about it 2 Sundays ago on the phone. He goes, when you buy them, they own you. So if you want to give them money, you give them money, they're going to own you. Because in those days, you give them money, it's a violation.
Sure.
They got that hanging over your head, and you can't coach them. You can't really be hard on them. He goes, you go straight up, we're all in this together. And we were just talking about the other day, man, I think today, since you're giving them money, it's all above the table, you can really get after it. He goes, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Just his wisdom of how to run a college program.
That's great.
Knowing how to do things with less. He was so honest, and man, did he work hard. Gosh, did he love camps. I mean, I think we did. He's the reason I hate doing camps, because we did so many of them, but he just loved it. We called him the head assistant coach. There was no task too big for Bruce Weber. Matt and I and all the assistants, we'd be at lunchtime at camp, we'd be in eating pizza with the coaches. He'd be out dumping the ice. We're like, there's the head assistant coach out there doing all of our jobs.
That's good, though. Wasn't afraid to do those things.
He just showed us. I mean,
how about Matt?
Matt could coach 10 guys at one time. Kerry, I don't know what it's like in football, but I think I know why most of you guys went higher in places to watch your practices, right? So you could get a better perspective, a better peripheral view. Most of us watched the ball, and Bruce was great at getting me to get my eyes off the ball in practice, especially as an assistant, because it helped me learn the game. Matt would stand in spots on the floor, and Matt was great at coaching 10 guys. Matt was tremendous about coaching guys the way players want to be coached. He had a really good feel on when to really get after them, when to be sarcastic, when to be funny, when to just be deadpanned. He always wanted to be coached the way he always thought you should coach the way players want to be. As a player's perspective. His dad was an attorney. He thought like an attorney. He kind of thought a step ahead. As a matter of fact, when Bruce got the Illinois job, it was an absolute. It was just I guess just he and Kowalczyk just had to decide, the AD Paul Kowalczyk, just to decide what the money was going to be, because it was a no-brainer who was getting that job.
Yeah.
And I mean, as much as my mom loved me, she would have hired Matt Painter that night, and and told me my time was coming. But no, it's not any surprise the success he's had at Purdue, and for him to stay at Purdue in this era, along with guys, only Izzo and a few people, the guy at Gonzaga, different people are staying at one place. It's impossible.
It's pretty rare.
And Matt's overcome the odds, but he's doing it the same way there that he did at SIU. It's all he and Bruce knew. It's the Gene Cady way. You just be honest with them. You coach them hard, and kids want to be told the truth. Kerry.
That's a cool coaching tree.
Yeah.
And a lot before we get to USI, what about Chris?
Chris got. I'll say this. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. Maybe this will ruffle some feathers in Southern Illinois, because I have reverence for what Coach Hartman did with Walt Frazier. Walt Frazier's still the face of the program. Okay, what they did in '67 truly put SIU on the map, and they did great things in the '50s too, and so forth. But no one can deny Walt Frazier and the NIT team and those guys what they did. Coach Lambert, what he did with Mike Glenn and Josie Merriweather and those guys to get the Sweet 16. Sure, it was 32. They won a game. That was groundbreaking. What Coach Herron did in the three-peat, what Bruce Weber did getting to Sweet 16 again and getting there by beating Bob Knight's team in Texas Tech, and Herron's team from Georgia and got beat at Syracuse by Emeka Okafor and UConn and those guys. That's amazing. What Matt did in his first year, won 17 in a row, more than anyone in the Valley had done. It's amazing what all those guys did. What Coach Lowry did in the '07 team, and I watched it every day, the way he would coach them so hard, and the way those kids would absorb it, it was amazing. Wow. I've never seen anyone. I mean, our guys weren't that good, and we were ranked really high. I don't know, 11th, 14th. I know we were a 4th seed in the NCAA tournament, which is impossible. We were part of the reason why the Big Four said, that's enough of that. Those guys are getting too much of our money. Yeah. But Chris is a big response. The way he coached defense, I've never seen like it. And Kerry, he was a point guard like that. Yeah. He demanded his teammates to play the same way he demanded as a coach. Yeah. It was beautiful to watch.
That's a great summation of those guys, and I appreciate that. And then you get the opportunity to go be a head basketball coach, and we'll finish with that. We talked about how well you did. We talked about your record, your achievements there. What was it like going from the assistant for all those great coaches and then finally getting your chance? You feel like you were ready, it was time. How did that feel to you when you got that chance?
I think it was 94, and I asked Kevin Stallings, because I'd known Kevin from the Purdue camp. When he was an assistant at Purdue, I'd worked their camp with Bruce Weber, and they were best of friends, and got to know him because they'd be on the phone and we'd talk and so forth. So I asked Kevin, when he got the job at Illinois State, what's it like moving over 18 inches? And he said, you know, like you, I felt like at Purdue and Kansas, I had I had my fingerprints on everything. I touched everything, recruiting and travel, and anything you can think of, I had a hand on it.
Yeah.
He goes, at Illinois State, everything's on my plate, and I am the final word. That still rings clear in my ears. Think about it, over 30 years later. And so that was part of it. Inherited a situation where Coach Pearl was there, did an amazing job, won a national championship in '95. Coach Hurtis was with him. He did a phenomenal job. He was the head coach for 8 years. Think about this, Kerry. He averaged 25 wins a season for 8 years. His biggest sin, to come to find out, is you just can't stay that long at places. It's just, and there was a situation that happened. It's really unfortunate, and that opened the door. I'll tell you, and everybody in Southern Illinois is going to remember this. It was in '09 in May, and it was at 10 o'clock in the morning. Chris Lowry asked me to come in his office. He shut the door and he goes, hey man, the job at Southern Indiana is open. Chris is from Evansville, went to Harrison, played with Kevin Hardy and Walter McCarty and all these great players. And Chris's name is in reverence in Evansville to this day, and with all those guys. And he goes, that job came open. The AD called me about you. He goes, you need to call him back.
Wow.
Well, yeah. we have a luncheon at noon, and we're going to talk about a golf outing we're going to do. And during that luncheon, we're at a restaurant in Carbondale, and there's an incredible storm. It was the storm of '09 when it blew that straight line hurricane that came through Southern Illinois. I mean, we all remember. Everybody's watching this is remembering this, right?
Yeah. I
mean, we come out and go, well, that was a dandy. And all of a sudden I see a tree through a house and I see a roof off an apartment building. Yeah. And we were lucky to get our kids home. We had no service, and Carol was in Marion and I was in Carbondale. We had to get 4 kids home from school, and I told my kids, the high schoolers, I go, hey, we're not doing anything this weekend. Cancel your plans. We got some cleanup to do. So I call him back, finally get a hold of him and go, hey, I'd like to meet you. Can you come over tomorrow? I go, yeah. 2 things got to happen. I got to get a tank of gas somewhere, and I got to get a shower.
And there was no guarantee of the tank of gas.
And so we met. One thing led to another, and he had told me briefly about what had happened and so forth. But I mean, Kerry, it's hard to get a head coaching job in college. It's hard to get one in high school. Yeah. I mean, I was talking about there were no jobs in '82. There weren't any in '09 either. Yeah. And so that situation presented itself. I didn't know, I didn't really know what was going on. There was an investigation going on, and I get the job, fortunate to get it. I interview Jamar Smith, who had been at Illinois. He transferred to our place. He had a situation, so he was the first guy I brought in, shut the door, and I said, is there something I need to know? Because if there is, we got to figure this out today so that I don't waste your time and you don't waste mine. And he goes, no, we're good. He goes, I got to figure out whether I'm going to go to Europe or not, or I'm going to stay in college another year. I go, well, that's fine, but I'm saying, is there anything that you and I really have to talk about? And he knew what I was saying. Did he get paid?
Yeah.
And he goes, he smiled. He goes, no, we're good. Everything's fine. I go, well, how do you pay for your rent? How do you pay for the other things in school? Because, we're a Division II school. It can't be what we were doing at Carbondale, at SIU. And he told me about the scholarship. And I go, you're getting that much for a scholarship? Yeah. And it was on the record. It was on the books.
Yeah.
He leaves. I go, we good? He goes, we're fine. He knew Coach Weber had played for him for a year, so he knew what I was about.
Yeah.
He ends up staying, which is incredible. So I call Carol right after that. I go, we're good. If nothing isn't going on Jamar, can't be anything else going on. Yeah. I go, and these scholarships, they're the same one we've been handing out here for. We used to have as many. All right. So that's what really was happening. And then later the league deems us ineligible for a conference tournament, which means we couldn't go to the NCAA tournament, and that was a big deal. So our mantra was, we're going to beat everybody in the country, and whoever wins it's going to put an asterisk by their name. And we start out and win 23 in a row. And then Jamar gets hurt, and we lose 3, and then we win our last one. But in some respects, it was, in nearly every respect, it was the greatest time of my professional career. And if you remember a little bit earlier, we were talking about win and move, more money, higher status, yada, yada. On the flip side, people will say, what's the toughest thing that's ever happened? And it's, for me, it's not even close. It's not even a thought process. So we are, I think we're 11-0, maybe, I don't know, we're something to know, and we're ranked 8th in the country. And Arkansas Tech was 1 in the country. They're undefeated. And Kentucky Wesleyan, our arch rival, and I mean, Kerry, it was arch rival. It was hatred.
Yeah.
Okay? They are ranked 5th, and they're undefeated. And we're going to their place on a Thursday night. And I call different coaches. I called the women's coach, who was, at the time, she was at Florida Atlantic. I go, Chance, what's this game going to be like? What do I have to prepare for? She was, just be yourself. It's a little nuts. It's going to be sold out. It's going to be crazy. You guys are good. They're good. But just coach and have fun, enjoy it. And then I called Coach Pearl. I go, what do I expect? He goes, oh, they're crazy. And, kind of the same thing. And I mean, one of my best friends who's done extremely well in the business world, he had gotten arrested during one of those games because his thing with the fan, that's another story. But so we go over there, and Kerry, they're good, we're good. It was one of the greatest games ever. And we're down 3 at halftime, and we have a guy, Tyrone Bradshaw, really athletic. Jamar's having a great game, like always. Tyrone was really athletic, and he could literally touch 12 when we did the standing jump. Tremendous athlete. He was really struggling. They scouted him well, and our center was Jerron Lewis, big guy, 6'8", just playing great. And the Saturday before that Thursday game, I brought in my office. We'd beaten a team out of Maryville. They weren't ready. They came into our league. We scored 153 points.
My!
Yeah, it wasn't even fun. Like, it was, but they just weren't ready. But yet we were that good. And Jerron was going to go to Europe and make a lot of money. Okay, so I bring in my office after that road trip, and I go, look, man, you're playing phenomenal, and you are going to be a high 6-figure guy in Europe. Just don't let Saturday nights get in the way, and don't let stuff mess you up, because you're going to go on and have a great career in this game. And he goes, Coach, you know what I really want? And I knew he was going to say, I want to play in the NBA. I knew he was going to say that, Kerry. And I go, Jerron, I leaned back, and I go, what do you want? He goes, I really just want to get my degree, go back and work at the Jennings Center, which is a Boys and Girls Club, and take care of my wife and my son. That's all I really want to do. And I go, partner, I'm 48. I go, you've got this figured out long before I do. And that's really what he meant. So we go to that game on down 3 at halftime. I'm trying to settle. Tyrone was a little high strung. I'm trying to settle him down. I'm being long-winded like I'm being with you. At halftime, we got to have Tyrone now. We can't let him go off the rail. Jerron's got his hand on Tyrone's leg, and Jerron's looking at me, shaking his head and saying non-verbally, move on, that's enough. So I get the cue, I move on, we go out. Sure enough, boom, we flip the switch, and we get the lead. And with 4:32, we get a steal. Jamar slips baseline side, gets a steal. We're coming down, and it's a little before 4:32 on the clock, but it's around that time. We're coming down, and I'm thinking to myself, we're up 5 at the time. If we get the layup, we're going to take it. If not, I'm going to call a timeout. We're going to rest our guys. We're going to score because we're clicking, okay? And we're up 7. We're going to run this thing out. We're going to win the biggest game I've ever been a part of, okay? The whistle blow. Like, we're coming down. I'm like, okay, I'm assessing all this stuff. Get the layup.
Yeah.
Fine. I might even I was thinking maybe call the timeout to layup, get a rest. We get the media timeout. We're taking this baby home. The whistle blows. I turn to my right. I think he can't call the timeout.
Yeah.
What's he doing? What are we doing here? I look down, and the referee's motioning me to come down. And it's Jerron, our 6'8" center. And he's laying on the floor, and I'm thinking job advancement. Biggest game. I'm going to be the coach at a bigger school.
Yeah.
All this going through my intelligent head right now. I'm thinking, man, he must have twisted an ankle. oh man, as I'm getting closer, I think he blew a knee. Well, it looks like he's having convulsions. I'm like, oh my gosh, I wonder if he's epileptic. So I asked some fans down there, I go, did you guys see what happened? Did he hit his head? He goes, he fell pretty hard. So they bring the stretcher out, they take him off. The other coach, Todd Lee, says to me, do you want to continue the game? I go, well, sure. Yeah, we'll finish the game. Because I'm thinking he's going to, whatever it is, they're going to figure it out. They're getting to the hospital. It's Owensboro, Kentucky. They got medical, they got hospitals. We finished the game. The game was, from that point on, it's like, okay, we win the game. But it's not anything like we're going to shoot the layup, call the timeout or not.
Yeah.
We finish the game. We go into the little dungeon locker room. We stack it up. We say a quick prayer for Jerron and said, okay, I'm going to do the media. From here, we're going to the hospital. We're going to see what's going on with Jerron. I go to the media. Our trainer had gone with Jerron to the hospital. He calls me on my phone right after I talked to radio. He goes, I need you to step away. I go, okay, I'm good. I can talk. He goes, we lost him. Kerry, I go, well, how many hospitals are there in Owensboro? He goes, well, there's only one. I go, well, Dave, find him. He's got to be in the hospital. He's got to be somewhere. He goes, no, we lost him. I go, what do you mean we lost him? He goes, he passed away.
What?
You could have told me that there was a meteor about to land in the parking lot, and I would have much believed that more than what that was. We lose our captain, and this guy was the heart and soul of our team. And he was the guy that would tell a guy like me, move on. He's got the point, move on. You talk about a tough phone call to make to his family back home from that locker room. Never experienced shock before. But shock for me was I got back to my apartment. Carol had not moved over yet. She was still at Marion Junior High School, and she wasn't at that game. So I go back to my apartment after we had met with the team and back in Evansville with we had a priest come in that was a good friend of our family or of the team and so forth. And I go to my apartment, and I'm a guy that doesn't drink, so I don't know what bed spins really are. I hear that concept. I'm sitting on the bed, and I kind of feel like I'm floating and turning. Like, whoo, I can't sit here. So I get up, I go to an all-night steak and shake, and I just spend the night up. And Kerry, you talk about God smacking you in the head saying, okay, partner, this isn't about it. Win, advance, win, advance. This is about coaching, teaching, being present with young people. And at age 48, at 9:32 p.m. on January the 14th of 2010, I learned what coaching is really about.
You know, it's funny too, and you tell that story beautifully, and I'm sorry for your loss, but you talked earlier about your wife's job, and she got it about being there, being present, in her job, why she keeps doing it, and you learned from that situation that lesson and what we're really supposed to be doing, because the temptation is the what and the how and the where I can go, but it really comes down to the why.
Sure.
Why we're in this business, and you used basketball to grow young men into better young men, and I did it, hopefully tried to in football, and that is a powerful tribute to him and to your coaching career, because you have truly been a great storyteller, and that's a gift, and your memory is much like Rich's, because he can tell me about the 57 Salem team and dropping names that only my dad had told me about, and I'm like, Rich Herron knows those names too, and that's a gift, and I love the fact you've been here to share it. And as I said earlier, being a great assistant is a gift that I think some people overlook, but you were able to successfully do both, from assistant coach and then do the same thing as a head coach. And that's a big deal. And you and I had a conversation on the phone about retiring well. So let me close with this. You made a decision to retire. You could have kept coaching. Tell me about that.
So, short version is 2018 didn't take care of my body, was not doing a good job coaching. We won games. We won 20 that year in 18, and we should have been a high-ranking team in our region. And I did not stay true to my principles on holding kids accountable enough, and I wouldn't hold myself accountable. I let myself, my weight was terrible. I developed type 2 diabetes, which was ridiculous. Didn't have to happen. It just did, okay? So I had a hard talk with my athletic director, and thank goodness I had the right words that day, and God helped put those in my brain and through my mouth, and I committed to 15 things I was going to do better in 19. And we had really good players again, and ended up having a great year. It was that spring in 19, I was 59 years old. I knew those wrinkles weren't going away, and in recruiting is everything. You've got to get good players. You know, part of it, what do you look for in players? What do you look for? Like, first of all, you look for talent. If you're not talented, I mean, no one looked at me because I wasn't talented in basketball. I had some other good grades. I came from a great family, but didn't have the talent part. But then you got to say, okay, can you make it? Are you serious about academics? And every kid we coached, I don't care who it was. I don't care if they came from low back. Everyone wanted their degree. Math was the biggest hang-up in college athletics, or kids getting their degree or not. We kind of got over that hurdle. We found a math teacher that was tremendous, and he would teach it in class. Anyway, 19 was a great year. I went into my AD and said, look, I'll be 60 the next year. I'm going to go one more year. And then that gives you a year on the down low to kind of vet your prospects. You can figure out where you want to go. But I knew a couple things, and we shared this early, and I'll share it with anyone who will listen, especially you older coaches. Make sure you have health insurance, okay? Because you got to have health insurance. You're going to have enough money if you work that long, and if you know how to if you've worked this long and you have enough money, you're going to have money. And there's a lot of grass to cut out there. If you want to talk to me about that later. But the second most important thing is leave your place happy. Amen. I saw too many coaches leave disgruntled. They can never get that time back. You can never go back, and you can't. I can't go back to SIU, USI, and call that time out and press after a miss like I think I should have coached. That time's over. Leave happy. Best thing I ever did. And now I go to the games at USI. I go to SIU. It's great to see fans. It's great to see teams play and see all those things. And it's a really enjoyable time of life.
Yeah. I think we both agree, and I think I kind of felt the same way. I just knew it was time. I still had coaching in me, but to leave good, to leave well in our business, it's a pretty rare thing, to be honest with you. And I appreciate you sharing that wisdom, because it's a bit of a lost art, and some coaches kind of find the end not so good. And you ended well. You did it well from the beginning. I love the fact you're very open and honest about your thought process and wanting to climb that ladder. And I think we've all been through that in our mind as a young coach, but you kind of learn what really matters at the end. And man, I appreciate you sharing all this. You've been a wonderful storyteller, great gift of talking about the profession, and left a lot of nuggets here on the table for someone to hear.
And I'm no longer bitter with you, Kerry, for leaving Carterville, because you left in good hands with Dennis Russ.
I did.
But there was a time where we're like, when you first left, it's like, wow, he just left us hanging. But I've admired you, and we share a great friend and mentor in Mark North that really helped us both carry on along the way. But thanks for your leadership in Southern Illinois and what you've meant to all of us.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate you being here and saying you would do this, and I appreciate it. And I want to thank you all for watching, as always, and listening in. Thank Crown Brew, Abby and Ross for staying. I want to thank my buddies at Adrenaline. I want to thank Tony Gooch at Marion Plumbing, and continue to thank you all for your support and your encouragement and your recommendations on who you'd like to hear down the road. And so we look forward to hearing from you again in the future and seeing you next time. Thanks.